What's good, everyone? This is Tolu from SecGen. I'm back at it with another video today. Today I'll be showing you how to set up Wazuh and Splunk servers in our home lab environment. These two tools are key detection and log management softwares, which we can build in our home lab to see how it actually works in a real scenario. Whether you're building a home lab to test for blue teaming or for preparing for a SOC job, this is one you should look into. What is Wazuh? Wazuh is an open source SIEM and XDR tool. I'm sure if you're already in cybersecurity or getting to know more about cybersecurity, XDR tool is something that you know about. If you don't know about it, I feel it's better for you to do a little bit of research about it so you can have a broader view of what XDR tools are. Think of it as your eyes and your ears across endpoint devices. So this is going to be hosted on each of your endpoint devices, either it being your Windows computers, your Mac computers, and your servers. It's going to be a tool which we're going to install on them. What does it do? It does file integration, integrity check, vulnerability detection, malware detection, and also alerting. The nice part about Wazuh also is that we could make detection rules, which if it hits the detection rules which we want, then it sends us an alert. Now, let's look into what Splunk is. Splunk is a more powerful data platform that collects and analyzes machine data. So it collects logs from your servers, from your network devices, and even more. It is used in enterprise SOCs everywhere. So why did I bring in Wazuh and why did I bring in Splunk to be used in our lab today? I brought these two in one because why did I bring this in into our lab for us to actually test this and see how it works here? Because Wazuh is an open source tool which everybody has access to. People could actually manipulate it or change it into the way they want it. And Splunk is an enterprise SOC tool. So bringing these two together and testing alerts and detection rules on both of them at the same time, we're going to see a more real life experience or real life view on how alerts has gotten and how detection rules are written in both Wazuh and Splunk. So let's dive in. What I'm going to go into next is just remember the overview of our lab and how our lab looks like. Then we are going to go into installing Wazuh and Splunk on our servers. So for me, I'm going to be hosting both the Wazuh and Splunk server in one space. If you ask me, that is not the best thing to do. The only reason I'm doing this is just because it's a test. If you could also even look here, you could see my Splunk and my Wazuh are hosted on two different servers. That is the best practice in cybersecurity, and that's the best practice anyone should do when setting this up for your full production environment. So first up, we see that this is my Ubuntu server. So my old server is just a normal Ubuntu server which I installed the GUI. And I'm sure if you don't know how to do that, that is a self-paced project that you should work on for you to know how to install the basic things that you're going to always be using in cybersecurity. What I kind of just did is that I've already opened most of the sites which I would need for today. The first one is the Wazuh installation assistant. So the Wazuh installation assistant help us to install Wazuh on our endpoint devices with just some few commands. So then for us to go through different commands, we just have to just go through just some few commands for us to be able to install Wazuh on our endpoint device. So what can we do? Open your Wazuh, open your command line terminal. One thing I do always like to do with my own terminal, this is just my own preference. I always like to already be a super user or a root user already than for me to be always adding sudo in front of it. So I'm already a super user, which is my root user already. Normally, I always like downloading my stuffs in the download folder. Um, Good. So I'm gonna now copy this command which I have here as the call here and just paste it in here. Good. We're gonna see an error though, but we're gonna fix up the error together too. Good. You see that call is not been found yet in our systems. So we could just do apt install call, which we could see here. So why don't you just even copy this also down for us to actually type it again? Perfect. So core has been installed already. So this is one of the things that we should always remember in cybersecurity. There are always tools that you always have to re-download and download again and again because of production. So now we are going into the installation phase. So it is just the same command which I used, which is um, the core package. Then I added the bash Wazuh installer. So this is just a faster way of installing. I'm just gonna take this for some few minutes, allow this to install, and we're gonna come back to this to see how the installation process goes on. Now the installation has finished. So what we are going to do now is it's giving us our admin and this password. I'm not going to really block this password because this is not a production environment or this is not my personal environment. So it's really whatever. So it also gives us where we are going to log into the server from. So the server is going to be hosted on 443, port 443. So let's quickly just do IPA to know what I was the IP of this server. So this is a 10.10.10.58 and it's HTTPS. So HTTPS 10.10.10.58 443 or 10.10.10.158. I was also confused. 443. So good. Accept risk and good. So now we have access to our Wazuh server. This is the Wazuh server. Let it load. So it has to load a lot of pages. So now we have here. Just gonna copy this password. Every single person, when you're setting this up, I feel like the best thing for you to do is actually have this password saved in a note file, which I am going to do right now, so that whenever I need to text editor, whenever I need to log into it, I will come back here to it. So admin. Uh, yeah, I'm just gonna save it because yeah, it's my own personal server regardless. Good. So now we have full access to our Wazuh server. We could see that installing Wazuh is kind of very, very easy. You see here, their updates has already been done. On a normal day, when we have new agent installed here, this is where we are going to see deployed agent. So what we are going to do at this point is that we are going to deploy one agent. We're going to deploy it on an Ubuntu server for us to see how it's been deployed. Let's go to my test Ubuntu server for us to actually run this from there so that we could see how to actually do this. Good. Clear. Let's open this. That's the basic thing. Wazuh agent. Download. Install Wazuh agent on Windows endpoint. From here, I could just go into on Linux. That's what we need with Linux. So for us to run it on Linux, this is what we need. This is the command that we need for us to be able to install this on Linux. So add the repo. First off, we need to add the repo, then deploy the agent. So for additional, okay. To deploy the Windows agent, and we'll select the package manager and edit the Wazuh. The variable contains the Wazuh manager IP and the host name. Good. So this is what we need to do for here. Okay. So let's get the repo first so that we can be able to good. So let's install it. So we're just gonna quickly um sudo. So we're just gonna paste this in. Good. So as again, call has not been installed. So just gonna quickly do sudo su, then support 1999 at clear apt install crawl clear clear. These are just the bare commands which we need. Then we just need to do the apt-get updates just for us to update the repos, all the repos that we've downloaded for us to be able to make sure that it's working perfectly well. Just give some few minutes. This is gonna get done. Okay, good, clear. Now let's see what the next step they said we should do from here. Add the Wazuh repo. So we've already added the Wazuh repo. Deploy the agent. So for this is what we need to use to deploy the agent. So we need to change this to we need to change this to we need to change this to the IP address of the manager. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna copy this, come back in here, paste it out, and just backtrack a little bit. So we have our manager IP address is 10.1.58, if I'm correct. So how do we know what the manager IP address is? Remember, we always the manager IP address is the IP address of the server where it is located in. That is where we're going to see the IP address. So from here, let's see what we got again. So our IP is 10.10.10.1.58. Okay, good. So we go back and we complete our installation of our Wazuh agent. So yes, apt install Wazuh agent. Go. Let's see. Yeah, just gonna allow this run on the back end. Now, after that, there's something called for us to enable the Wazuh agent to run whenever the system puts up. So, if we don't run this command here, what's going to eventually happen is that if the system goes on or come back on, the Wazuh agent would not be on again. So we need to actually make sure that that's also working too. So good. The Wazuh agent has been installed. Okay, now we're just going to quickly just copy this for it to just run everything at once for us. Now for us to go back past, compare, paste. You could run multiple services at the same time or um multiple commands in one go. So what it kind of does is runs everything one by one and completes everything that we need to do. Now let's come back into our server here. Good. Our server is still here. Let's restart it to see. Let's refresh the page to see if we already have it installed here. Just a few minutes. Most times it takes a minute to actually load. Good. So we come from here now. We could see one active agent. So good. We have finally installed it. We could see everything related to that specific agent here. Let me make this a little bit smaller so that it makes more sense to us here. Good. So this is our Wazuh agent. The very nice thing about Wazuh is that it does vulnerability detection. It does integrity, checks everything, file integrity monitoring, and the best thing which we are going to eventually look into is threat hunting. We could see from here, this is threat hunting. If we go into the event, we could see the basic event of everything happening in the PC. So ensuring the permissions in different folders, the benchmark, we could see all the whole 9 yards related to this. If you want to see more of the logs, all the logs that we get are always here. The nice thing also is that we could do refresh and to check it out. So this is the first installation of Wazuh and how it's easy for us to even just push out an agent to the endpoint devices. This is the same way you could also do it for your Windows computers and even your PFSense. PFSense is a little bit different, but this is literally the same way we were going to go through this. So as we go on, we are going to go to more in depth. The next thing which I'm going to cover is how to install Splunk also. Now that we are done installing Wazuh and also deployed an agent on one of our endpoint devices, we are going to install Splunk now. Splunk is the second one which we spoke about, which is more of the commercial SOC tool that is being used. We are going to install that and also install an agent or a universal forwarder, as they call it, on one of our endpoint devices, which I would actually use the same Ubuntu endpoint that we used the first time for this also. So let's go into it and see how we could actually run that up. So now, this is what we're going to go into now downloading Splunk. One thing that we should always remember is that before you download Splunk, you will have to actually have an account with Splunk for you to be able to download. Come in here, click on trial and downloads. We are going to see what we want to download. So we don't need the Splunk Cloud Platform. No, we need the Splunk Enterprise. So we click on the Get Free Trial. And come here to the Linux. So we're not running it on Windows 10, we're running it on Linux. So click on Linux, and this is it. You're going to download um, the Debian one, which we see here. And right after this gets finished downloads, we are going to go into installing it. Now that it has been fully installed, what we are going to do, downloaded, what we're going to do now is that now we are going to now install it. We're going to go into the installation phase of this. So what we're going to do is just more of ls to list our files, and we could see now that we have the Debian file installer here. So we are just going to quickly just run the command, which is the dp kg, right, dash I, which is what we want to install, right, Splunk Debian, and we allow it to go, and we give it the time for it to read the file and install the different packages that we need for it to run. I'm just going to give you some few minutes for this to finish installing, and we're going to move over to the next stage. So now that we have completed installing the Wazuh, what we're going to do next is we need to go to cd/opt ls. We're going to see Splunk, so we're going to cd into Splunk and ls again. We could see that from here we have the bin directory. So from the bin directory is where we're going to have access to what we need to install on our PC. So cd bin ls, we could see that we have different files in here, but we just only need just one file. So we just need to actually run um, Splunk stats. I just need to go through all the lines, then click yes at the end. This is a lot. There's a lot of reading, a lot of stuff. So click yes. Please enter administrator username. So I'm going to leave the name as admin and use a password. So you use your own password here. Okay, so we're going to see that it's going to be running. Good. Installation has completed. Good. Waiting for the web server. So we could see that the port where it's uploading from is, or it's running from, is port 8000. Right. You always remember 8000 is for this. 443, which is the normal web page, is for your Wazuh or Wazuh, if that's the best way to say the name. Just give it some time for it to complete. Those errors are just personal errors that are going to be here. So perfect. So it's been set up already. So we could actually just go in through this. Let's see. But normally I always just go through the IP address. The IP address is the fastest way. But let's try this for the first time. Good. It takes us actually down to the page where we need, because is the IP address 8000. So we're just gonna go in admin, and the password which we have is safe. Whoa. So good. This is the full installation of Splunk, and this is how Splunk is meant to be installed on your endpoint devices. So on the next video, we are going to go more in depth on how to forward logs from our endpoint devices into Splunk, and we're also going to try to see how we could make dashboards in Splunk that we could use to review our logs. We're also going to look on how to create detection rules for alerts through Splunk and Wazuh. Thank you for joining on my video today. We are going to pull up the next video with more information and more interesting things that we could deep dive in our cybersecurity lab.